Ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome back. This is Chewing Clock, SEC Unfiltered's bi-weekly SEC football show. I'm Chris Phillips. He is Cole the Bear Thompson. We have got a jam-packed show for you here on a Thursday. We're coming to you a day later than normal, but still all the same fun and the yucks that you have come to expect because spring football is officially in the air. If they have not started yet, in just a few short weeks, each of the 16 institutions across the league will begin spring practice, and we are here previewing spring football with essentially just one question that we'll be answering. What is the big question that each SEC football program needs to answer by the end of spring practice? We'll talk all that. We'll dive into that really fun conversation. Also, we begin a new series today. Simply put, the season will be successful if blank takes place. Is it a win total? Is it reaching a certain point in the postseason? Is it a certain player winning an accolade? Is it a certain first-year head coach doing something in particular? We're going to start that series today with the Texas Longhorns and the Arkansas Razorbacks as we break down, both Cole and I, what we'll deem success for those respective teams in 2026. All that much more. We appreciate you all tuning in. Of course, always your questions, comments, you guys engaging with the show. Make sure, as always, you hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts, all across your favorite social media platforms, as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. And as always, we are powered by our friends over at UNDERDOG. Download the UNDERDOG app today. Use promo code SEC. You're going to get $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. Once again, that is the UNDERDOG app, promo code SECU, to get that $75 in bonus entries today. He is Cole Thompson. I'm Chris Phillips. This is Chewing Clock, the best SEC football show on the internet, dare I say. As we close the month of February and we begin the month of March, you know what happens in March. We get football back, kind of. It's spring football. But either way, there will be players and coaches and teams on the field. We're talking spring football. We're previewing it. We're answering the question of what is the big question for each of these teams. Really excited to do so. Cole, really appreciate you taking the time. How dare you, though? I'm going to be in your home state this weekend and not going to cross paths with a Bear. It's a damn shame, but I'll be just down the road in case you get some free time down in Arlington. So,
if I'd have to work at 9:30 the next morning, I would gladly make the drive on up. But everybody in the state of Texas knows as well as I do, a drive to Arlington is not a fun little soiree. Like, again, you go to Texas, people all the time are like, oh, I can just get through there in like an hour. No, you're in an hour and you're still in the same,
congested or whatever.
You're in the same city that you were in and for an hour. Like, it takes 5 hours for you to get to the middle part of halfway through your journey. So it's like, it's just too much when it comes to the other things going on. But you will enjoy Arlington. You will have a fun time doing whatever you need to do, and I will be doing work as per usual.
We can blame the schedule, Cole, because if it weren't for the folks at the Amagi Bank College Baseball Series at Globe Life, if they didn't have this tournament this weekend, I would have been at the tournament in Houston, Texas. So,
right.
Let's blame scheduling more than anything. Come on, guys. We got to set it up so we can go to both, but either way, always love my trips to the Lone Star State. Looking forward to it. Obviously, that being for the baseball reasons. But again, we are here talking football really quickly. Cole, I do want to say hello to a lot of our faithful few, our listeners that tune in. Our guy, Turkey Slammer, a.k.a. Miss Terry's Bathwater. Go Big Orange. What's up? Riley says Camario Taylor for Heisman. I love it. Let's get it going. Let's build the hype in now. We got our guy, Edwards, says Florida begins on March 3rd for spring practice. Yep, the month of March, everyone will hit the practice field. Really pumped about it. John Bro says, go Tigers. John, good to see you yet again. John says, Cole and I are going to hang out in H-Town. I guess John might be going to the Houston tournament. You want to slide over to that, the old Bruce Bolt College Classic. You ought to get over there. Be fun. Texas and Ole Miss.
I would say if I have time, I may make the trip on over. So, yeah, I mean, I could easily just walk on in. I mean, I can use my Astros credential and just get on.
I was about to say, I feel like you should be able to get access there, no problem. So
it will be no problem for me if I need to. That is the one slide not to worry about.
Miss Terry's Bathwater. The Vols are going to have 2 first-round DBs in our secondary. Was booty meat last year.
To be fair, one of them didn't play, so it's like, we were terrible because one of them wasn't out there.
It's a good point. Bo Molinari says El Paso to College Station was 770 miles. It was an 11-hour trip, and you never left the state. Yeah. State of Texas
and that's
is
just
big.
That's one answer. That's not even all of it. There's another one that gets you 14 hours to El Paso.
It's a big state. Newsflash. It's a big state. Randy Etheridge says, horns up, baby. I'll be at the H-Town tournament. Let's go. Yeah, so if you see the bear, if he wanders into it's not Minute Maid anymore, is it?
Daikin.
Nah, it's Minute Maid. To hell with that. I'm not
because of I work for because of who I work for, it is Daikin Park.
It is.
You can call it whatever you want.
Fair enough. I grew up with the Minute Maid Park. Daikin Park just doesn't quite roll off the tongue the same way, believe it or not. All right. On that note, though, and I do want to say, guys, I'm really excited for today's show because I feel like, Cole, you correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I feel like in today's college football, I haven't seen or heard, maybe this is just me being in baseball mode or just not paying attention. I have not seen or heard anyone talking about spring practice. I remember I used to count down the days to the start of spring practice. I feel like now there's so much other stuff going on off the field, maybe not so much. But for here at SEC Unfiltered, we're pumped. We're pumped for spring practice. We're pumped for spring ball. What is it, 15 or so practices we're going to get for each of these teams? Some of them are going to play a spring game. Some of them are not. Either way, we're excited for it because questions will be answered. Position battles will be won or at least taken hold of. Concerns will either be alleviated or they will be built because of what happens in spring. And we're all going to do what we do best, which is overreact 6 months in advance of kickoff. So without further ado, you can essentially consider this SEC Unfiltered's 2026 spring football preview for the SEC. And Cole, let's play a game. One big question for each SEC football team that you feel like they need to answer this spring, at least answer as much as we can possibly get answers right now, right? Because, again, for a lot of these, we won't get real answers until we're on the field. I believe September 5th is kickoff for opening weekend for college football, at least for the SEC. We won't get those answers to this question then, but for the sake of the conversation, what each of these SEC football programs needs to be focused on, needs to make strides on, needs to answer these questions. So without further ado, Cole, let's start at the top. Let's go in alphabetical order. We'll start with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Cole, for you, the one big question Alabama needs to answer over the course of spring football.
How the hell are you going to make sure you look like the Alabama of old? I'm not saying that you have to be Alabama of old. I'm not saying that you have to consistently win national titles. I'm not saying that you have to go win the SEC or be in the college football playoff. But when the going gets tough, I can't see you just wave the white flag and call it a day. I saw that way too many times, especially in losses against Florida State, in the loss against Georgia in the SEC championship game, in the second half against Indiana. You have got to show me that it's year 3. These are Kalen DeBoer's players. This is Kalen DeBoer's roster. He is ready to make sure that this is his identity because now there's no one else to blame but you. This is your team fully through and through. You have to show me that this team is going to look different, is going to act different, and it's going to be mentally prepared to handle anything that it's thrown its way.
Cole, on that same note, what I wrote down here, the question I think Alabama needs to answer, again, I think it very much goes hand in hand with what you said is, and I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit, physicality / discipline. I know that's technically 2, but essentially the style of play. I think Alabama, obviously, over the first 2 years of Kalen DeBoer, I mean, listen, last year you go to the college football playoff. You win a game in the college football playoff, give credit where credit's due. But you're right. Why did those results happen? Why did the inexplicable results? What was the common theme? Well, you got bullied and you weren't a well-disciplined football team. And how many games did we talk about going into the penalties? Like Alabama being one of the most penalized teams in college football is asinine. It's crazy. It should never happen. It doesn't even sound right. It doesn't compute right in my brain. Physicality, discipline, those have got to be the 2 things you find answers to, and you find at least a way to start to correct. Like, to me, Cole, those 2 things, this is when they are established. You don't find your physicality or find your discipline mid-season. It's built in during February, March, April, the off season. That's when it's established. Those are the things that they've got to get figured out. Cole, let's go to Arkansas. New era begins with Ryan Silverfield, his first spring in Fayetteville. One big question, the Hogs need to answer this spring?
What's your culture? What's going to be the culture underneath Ryan Silverfield? Again, I'm not asking you to be a playoff team year one, get a couple of upset wins against top 10 opponents. I just want to see a direction of where the program's going to go. Ryan Silverfield was, for many people, not the first choice to get the job. And for some, we've said on multiple occasions, just because you want the job doesn't mean that you're qualified for the job. So what are going to be the non-negotiables that make your program stand on out? What are the things that you're looking for that you believe are going to be the baseline of the Ryan Silverfield era in Fayetteville? I want to know that you have a certain identity and brand that is going to be continuous through the next 3 to 4 years. And then afterwards, everything else is just an added bonus. Because let's be real, you were at rock bottom. You won 2 games, and then you lost 10 straight. You fired your coach. You had no life whatsoever offensively. Just show me that there is something that I can believe has turned the corner and that we're steering the ship in the right direction.
I think that's a great answer, Cole. Any first-year head coach, that's a really good one. You kind of find out what you're all about in year one. Just to go with something different, I'll go defense. I think defensively, you got to find some answers there. It's a brand new look staff. Obviously, the defense had been faltering and falling short over the last couple of years, especially last year. Last year, I thought the defense was a big Achilles heel for them. So, do you have any answers defensively? I seem to have a firm level of confidence they'll do enough on offense. But if you're going to stay in ball games, if you're going to cover spreads, if you're going to show signs of improvement, I think the defense has got to take a major step forward, obviously. Let's go down to the Plains, Cole. The Auburn Tigers, another one. That's what makes this so fascinating. How many coaches are going through their first spring at their respective schools, right? This being another one, Alex Golish at Auburn, question that the Tigers need to answer this spring.
Can your defense be the backbone early on? I think the offense is going to be fine eventually when you get there with Alex Golish. Again, it's a lot of his players, wide receivers, the interior offensive line. I love the addition of Bryson Washington, and I think Byron Brown can be legit. But Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will an offense. You want to know what can be built in a day? A defense. A very solid defense headlined by DJ Durkin that you brought back in because if you had enough faith that he was going to steer the ship in the right direction. So for me, can your defense be well equipped to, by the time that we get done with spring ball, and we got to enter week 1 against Baylor, we know that our offense can have a hiccup or two, and we got nothing to worry about. We will be right headed in the proper direction. All things that are necessary for us to believe that things are going upward. We have the identity, but more specifically, we have a crutch that we can turn to. Hey, rocky start to the season, no harm, no foul, defense will bail us out of trouble. I want to know that.
I like the addition of Byron Brown too, Cole. I think who are the playmakers around him? I think that's the big question you got to answer. I know Jeremiah Cobb comes back at the running back position, but it is a portal-heavy haul that's going to be assisting him on the offensive side. You obviously lost Cam Coleman. You lost Eric Singleton. I believe in Byron Brown too. I think you and I both had him top 6 in our quarterback rankings way too early going into 2026. But who are those guys around him that are going to help him in this league? You got to have pieces around you, especially at the wide receiver spot. Who are the guys that step up? I know they brought some nice pieces in from the portal, but who are going to be those dudes that emerge that are going to make his life easier? That's what I want to see, playmakers around Byron Brown. Let's go down to the swamp. Cole, John Sumrall and the Florida Gators, his first spring in Gainesville. Question for you that John Sumrall's Gators need to answer during spring ball.
How quickly can everyone learn the offensive Buster Faulkner? That's what I want to know. Because you can trust Jaden Baugh to get you 1,000 yards. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. I think that he is going to be the best running back by the time that we get done with the season in the SEC. From numbers, from upside, from production, I'm fully sold that Jaden Baugh is going to be that guy. What about your offensive line? What about Aaron Philo or Tramel Jones? What about your wide receivers? Eric Singleton's going to be really good because if we know what he looks like in a Buster Faulkner offense, that's why he got paid a lot of money to go to Auburn. But what about Vernell Brown? What about Dallas Wilson? What about your tight end play? What about your backup running back? What about your depth? How quickly can this offense gel underneath an offense coordinator who comes on in with a lot of potential to get this thing going from the get-go? But you just got to know that everyone is on the same page. And by the time you end camp, you feel like that, oh, you know what? We tweaked this here. We tweaked this here. Tighten this little bolt. Tighten this little nut. We're going to be a top 15 team by the season's end. That's what you want to feel like.
Cole, I'm going to take the very low-hanging fruit here and stick on the offensive side. My question I want to answer, who's the leader at quarterback? Like, who's your guy? You're if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a chance in this league. Certainly, it's going to be a new look room. DJ Lagway has gone to Baylor. It's Aaron Philo or Tramel Jones Jr., like you mentioned. Who's the guy, right? Who's the trigger man? Who's the signal caller? This offense, the offensive line needs to come together. This offense, though, Cole, like when you look at it on paper, should be pretty good, especially with Faulkner calling the shots. Dallas Wilson's a freak. Eric Singleton, I agree with you, he's going to be a big-time player. Vernell Brown's a solid piece to go along with him at wide receiver 3. And Jaden Ball can end up being the best running back in the SEC, if not the entire country. So the only question I have is the quarterback. Like, is Aaron Philo ready to be that dude? Is Tramel Jones going to come out, and is he going to take over the reins? Who is our leader at the quarterback position? Does John Summerall name a starter after spring? Does he let it go into summer? Does he let it go into fall camp? Whatever it might be, I'll be very curious what that looks like, what the dynamic is at the quarterback position. Let's go to Athens, Georgia, Cole. It's an interesting time right now for the Dogs when they haven't won a national title. They're in a bit of a national title, quote-unquote, drought, if you will. But like you and I have talked before, the expectations and the standard there is just different. Biggest question for Georgia as Kirby Smart and the Dogs get ready for spring ball.
You and I are going to have the exact same one, wide receiver 1. I got to know who's going to be the number 1 pass catcher. No more Zachariah Branch. No more Colby Young. You got to ask yourself, can Talon Taylor, the 5-star phenom freshman, be that guy? Can the addition of what you just brought in from Georgia Tech, Isaiah Cannon, can he end up having a similar impact to what you needed last season with Zachariah Branch? Is it going to be one of your freshmen that you just brought in this last recruiting class? The thing is that I will always trust Kirby to have a stable run game because that's just the bread and butter of Georgia football. Kirby, not Kirby, anybody, Dooley, you always can run the football. I expect the tight end play to be pretty good. Ulyss Williams is one that we're going to see, I think, have another stellar season because of now he's going to have a bigger role. But I got to know you got somebody on the outside that can burn past any single player that's on the perimeter. I just got to know that.
Yeah, great minds think alike, Cole. I'm right there with you. Who's the wide receiver 1? There's a lot of things I feel like I know about Georgia. I feel confident about Georgia, but anytime you lose a dynamic playmaker like Zachariah Branch and a veteran like Dylan Bell and others as well, yeah, who's that guy for Gunnar Stockton on the outside is going to make those big plays and take the top off of a defense. Cole, let's go to Lexington, Kentucky. The Kentucky Wildcats begin a new era under Will Stein. A lot of optimism, a lot of excitement, also a lot of unknowns. Cole, what's the big question you want answered for the Cats in spring practice?
Back to what I said about Arkansas. Same thing. What's your identity? What is going to be your identity going into this year? Do you want to, but for more so for the offensive side, are you going to be an up-tempo passing attack that likes to spread around and go 35 times through the air and 15 times on the ground? Are you going to be, we're going to run it in the trenches with 3 or 4 dudes that we know that can just pile drive forward and frustrate defense coordinators? Are we going to have a lot of play action pass? Are we going to be an offense that wants to go ahead and hit the outside corners? Are we one that's going to be up tempo? Are we one that's going to milk the clock and we're just going to rely on explosive plays? I want to know that this offense, which is going to be the bread and butter of anything that Will Stein does, is going to be acclimated to his overall personnel to when we get to week 1, everyone has an understanding about what you're going to be. Defensively, I think that you'll be able to pick up the pieces with Jay Bateman eventually. I need to know that offensively, Kenny Minchey's your starting quarterback, what you got the running back position, who you bring in at wide receiver. Everything is going to go according to plan.
Cole, not to sound like I'm copying you, but I also wrote down identity and I think culture as well. And I'm more so from the standpoint of like, what can Will Stein bring an exciting brand of football to Lexington that I think he can and that I've been excited to see. You know, we knew we were getting under Mark Stoops. It was the ground and pound physicality, almost kind of felt like 3 yards in a cloud of dust at times. I do think it's going to be a much more exciting product. Like Kentucky's, and I don't, I'm not even 110% sure if Kentucky's having a spring game, but if they are, that would be one I'd actually be really intrigued to tune into to just see what it looks like. Just see what it looks like. It's been a long time, Cole, since somebody other than Mark Stoops was roaming the sideline. So what does Kentucky look like without him? I think that's, heck, I could just substitute that as my question I want answered. What's Kentucky football after Mark Stoops or without Mark Stoops? Because for so long, we got so used to him being the head man. Now you bring in some new blood, some new juice, a new voice, and I certainly think it could be, and it will be beneficial. But what does it look like? It's just be interesting to see. Cole, let's go down to the Bayou, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The LSU Tigers get ready for their first spring under Lane Kiffin. Cole, I got a prediction for you. I don't think it'll lack any flair or dramatics because nothing with Lane Kiffin ever does.
Nope.
The big question you want answered in spring for the Bayou Bengals.
What does your offensive line look like? Sorry, I mean, like, let's be real. You can, if you want to run the football underneath Lane, you want to be able to pass the football and get explosives down the field. You want to be able to trust that you're going to be able to be effective inside the red zone. All starts with the trenches. You're not probably going to see Sam Levitt out there because he's still dealing with the injury. I know it'd be easy to go ahead and look at the two other quarterbacks that you brought on in via the portal and say, well, let's just figure out what would happen if anything went wrong with Sam Levitt. But for me, you went out and you brought in Jordan Seaton. You went out and you told 4 offensive linemen, thanks, but no thanks. We don't need your services anymore. You went and made sure that you were going after targets to bolster up your trenches. You want to run the football? You got to have a good offensive line. You want to keep your quarterback upright? You got to have a good offensive line. So what does this offensive line look like in just the bare foundational structure of things? I don't need to know that it's going to be the most physical. I don't need to know what type of game plans that they're running. I just need to know that there is something stable with the offense personnel, and it starts in the trenches.
Cole, I'm going to go with, because I think that's a good one. Admittedly, I did write that down. I think the rushing attack, but I'm just for the sake of being different than you. I'm going to go, the big question I want to answer this spring for LSU is how close or how far away are you from meeting lofty year one expectations? Because I think, and you and I both know the people who go out to spring practice and who watch all these practices, and they will give us very honest feedback on the state of things. And so I want to know, you put in the blueprint that you had at Ole Miss, you brought in, it's a brand new roster. You brought in like 40 portal guys. How close or far away are you from winning 9 games, competing for the playoff? Or do we quickly realize, hey, this thing might be a little bit more of a rebuild than we expected? I'm curious, does the attitude coming out of spring match the hype going into it? Right? Like, is there more confidence this team should compete for a spot in the playoff? Or is there more of a tempered, hey, it is year one, let's just get to 8-4, maybe push 9-3, that'll be success, and we'll really build for year 2? I'm curious what the attitude around LSU is after, or as we even go through spring ball, what the reports are from the people boots on the ground that see that team firsthand. So, Cole, let's go to Starkville, Mississippi. Hail State. Jeff Lebby, big year upcoming for him. Your biggest question you want to answer for the Dogs throughout spring?
Low-hanging fruit, Kamario Taylor. What do you do? What do you do as QB1? Now it's your time to shine. You have all the tempo, all the intangibles, all of the tricks, and all of the glitz and glamour to end up being a reason why we're believing in Mississippi State by midseason. You got some young receivers. You got some young running backs. You got maybe a little bit more stability in the offensive line than you really want. I don't know all of those things. We're going to have to wait and see. Here's what I do know. From a talent perspective, there is no one better than Kamario Taylor for Jeff Lebby's offense. And it's going to be really interesting to see how he takes that next jump forward. But if I'm going to change my tune on where I am with this program heading into year 3, I got to know you got something stable at quarterback. I'm not saying it's got to be elite. I'm not saying that by the time that we get done with spring, he's got to be a top 5 passer in the SEC. I just have to know you have a vision, you have a game plan. Now you're going to execute it with your QB1 headed into the 2026 season.
Cole, I'm going to go on the defensive side. What does the defense look like under Zach Arnett, who's back in Starkville? Defense has been a massive problem for them. I mean, Coleman Hutzler, wish him well, but it just did not work for him. His first ever big-time job or first big SEC coordinator job, what have you. The defense under Zach Arnett, what questions can we get answered on that side of the football? Are there signs of improvement? Are there signs of progress? Once again, this is a question that, we'll need to see answers when we get into the season, but does the return of Zach Arnett lead to a feeling or a sense of this Mississippi State defense will get back to what Mississippi State's traditionally been on the defensive side, which is, really nasty, really salty, really tough to play against? Does the return of Zach Arnett help lead to that? Cole, let's head over to Columbia, Missouri, Mizzou. The Tigers get ready, and Eli Drinkwitz get ready for another season of football. Biggest question you want answered for Mizzou this spring?
What is Chip Lindsey's offense going to be? That's really it. Because again, you've heard of Chip Lindsey and what he's done in the past with Michigan and what he did at Troy and what he's done as an offensive play caller before. Okay, so what does he offer now for Mizzou? Are you going to be a ground and pound attack that features a lot of Ahmad Hardy and Jamal Roberts? Are you going to elevate the play of Austin Simmons at quarterback? Are you going to get Donovan O thrown out to the wayside a little bit more, get a little bit of Nashawn Montgomery, Caden Lee involved in the passing attack? All little details like that can go such a long way in setting a tone for a year where, let's just call it as is. Mizzou, if they get to 9-3, they're going to be tested to get to 9-3. They're going to show you that they actually belong in that stratosphere of we are one of the better half teams of the SEC. It's going to rely a lot on the offense because I do think the defense underneath Corey Batoon is always going to have a ceiling of top 30 unit. Offensively, that's going to make or break where you are in the pecking order of the SEC. Having a standard and a tempo and an ideology of what you want your offense to be early on, that's really going to tell the story for me.
Cole, from Mizzou, for me, I think Austin Simmons is one of the most interesting stories coming into kickoff. I think the question I want answered throughout spring from IZ is Austin Simmons ready to return to form? And I know, again, he has not played a full season, if you will, and we're kind of going off of just a drive here, a drive there, a series here, a series there, whatever. But Austin Simmons, is he ready to take over and be that guy and really shine in the Missouri offense? Again, kind of going back to what you said, I think he's a dude who could be top 5 quarterbacks in the league. I think I still am a believer in Austin Simmons, and I will continue to drink the Kool-Aid until I have reason not to. But is he ready to burst on the scene and be that guy for the Tigers and have the type of season I think you and I believe he is capable of? So Austin Simmons returning to form. What are the reports like out of Como this spring when it comes to QB1? Cole, let's go down to Norman, Oklahoma. The Sooners get ready to go in spring football. Question you most want answered for Boomer Sooner this spring.
What is your offensive line? I mean, because it's easy to go with the low-hanging fruit and say John Mateer and his decision-making and John Mateer and his overall metrics and how much more is he going to be in year 2 with the same offense coordinator in the same conference. But one of the more, I would say, interesting things that I still look at is Bill Beatonbow has been your offensive line coach forever. And when you move to the SEC, one thing I figured eventually you would figure on out would be stability in your trenches. And you did a good job from year 1 to year 2, but it still wasn't good enough. He got sacked 25 times last year. On top of that, they also gave up the 3rd amount of pressures in the month of in the month of September and October. So early on, they really struggled before they finalized and finite everything. So how quickly can that offensive line gel with the full offseason of having some younger guys that you believe are going to be staples of your team? Michael Fasusi, he is supposed to be one of the best offensive linemen in the class, in the 2025 class. So what are you going to see from him now? He's had a full year of playing the position underneath his belt. Michael Fajort, I think is how you say his last name. He's been a part of the program for several years. What are you going to get from him? I just want to know that you can run the football efficiently. John Mateer's going to have time to throw it downfield. Just little things like that go a long way.
On the note of that, Cole, I think the only thing that scares me is that I heard from Oklahoma people that the offensive line looked a lot better. And I mean, it was better. Don't get me wrong, but it had nowhere to go but up. So I agree with you. Taking the next step. We need to continue to hear those positive reports when it comes to the offensive line. I am going to take the low-hanging fruit, John Mateer and his decision-making. I'm going to go there. I mean, the only times where I really saw Oklahoma struggle offensively, and when they did struggle, it was his decision-making that cost them. So, and I actually think, listen, I will say, I'm not someone where I'm going to necessarily define you by practice, but the way you practice is the way you play, Cole. And if we're hearing reports of him, turning the football over and throwing interceptions, and I mean, why would I expect him to be that much better or vastly different when it comes to going and actually live bullets during game time? And I mean, is he more efficient, less erratic? Do we raise the floor of his play? We know the ceiling's extremely high. John Mateer in the decision making. That's the question I want to answer. Has he made strides from last year to this year, taking care of the football? Cole, let's go down to Oxford, Mississippi. This will be one of the most interesting springs in the SEC, no doubt, because a brand new era after making the college football playoff and being a game away from going to the national championship game. It is Pete Golding's first spring as the head man. Question you want answered for Hottie Toddy this spring.
How different is Pete Golding and his approach to spring football than Lane Kiffin? I think that's a little underlying because of, again, Lane was about, let's go do drills. Let's go have like a fun day. Let's make it where you have flag football and we do like tug of war.
A dunk contest.
Is that going to be the same standard underneath your new coach? Because of what are we really looking at? Are we trying to bring in basically a Lane clone without paying the price for him? Or are we trying to change up some things that didn't work for us that maybe could get us over the hump and be in Atlanta for the first time as a program? Be an SEC regular season champion for the first time. Be a first round bye in the college football playoff. Just little things like that. And it goes with approach and attention to detail and all the other slow trinkets. So what is going to be a Pete Golding offseason culminating in when it comes to spring? And how much different is it from what you saw from Lane?
Cole, on a side note, I'd bet you $1,000 they don't have a dunk contest in the spring game this year. You remember he did mention, he's like, you notice that basketball goal's not in here anymore. So,
yep.
I just, it makes me laugh thinking about Pete Golding orchestrating a chicken wing eating contest and a trick shot show. I don't see it. Either way, though, for me, the question I want to answer, what is the kind of similar to what you said? I do agree with you. I think just what it looks like will be interesting. What's the offensive identity under John David Baker, and how much does it change? Because I think it's one of them things, Cole, you could look at it. Why would we reinvent the wheel? We've got Trinidad Chambliss and Kawan Lacey back. Like, we have the answers to the test in front of us. But John David Baker's got his own style. He's got his own system. He's got his own scheme. He's got his own way of doing things. Again, I don't know that they necessarily will try to reinvent the wheel. They're going to do things that work, but how much different is it? I mean, it is a different voice. It is a different leader. Charlie Weiss Jr. is no longer there, and I think you and I can both agree he was kind of the bigger piece of it even than Lane Kiffin, because look what they did in the playoff when Lane was gone. I mean, Charlie Weiss Jr. was the one orchestrating that. What's it look like offensively under John David Baker versus the Lane Kiffin, Charlie Weiss offense, if you will?
Sure.
Let's go to Columbia, South Carolina, Cole. Speaking of really interesting springs, the Gamecocks looking to bounce back from an abysmal 4-8 season. We already know Jacarius Peak will miss the entire spring due to injury. So questions to be answered all over the field, Cole. On that note, question you most want the answer to for the Gamecocks this spring?
Since I can't do offensive line, since I know I won't see Jacarius Peak out there, what's your running back room like? Because I think one of the more underlying things about that 9-3 season was you could always trust a Rocket Sanders blast-off play at the best time possible. And it took pressure off of Lenore Sellers, and it opened up their passing attack, and everyone kind of got back on a rhythm. Well, last season, you bring in Rasul Faison. He was fine. Wasn't great, but wasn't terrible. Maybe that was the play calling. So what does your running back room look like now? Oscar Attaway back for another year. You have some younger players in the building. You brought Christian Clark in from Texas as a late addition in the portal cycle. So do you have a guy that you really trust to be that lead rusher? Because if so, you got to feel really good about, hey, Lenore Sellers, when he had a good run game, he did this at a high-end rate. Hey, when he had a solid run game, this worked out in our favor. Just little things like that I think can go a long way.
Cole, I am going to take the low-hanging fruit and go the offensive line. I know Jacarius Peak is not playing in the spring, but he is just one piece of it. They have got a brand new crop of offensive linemen. Do you come out of spring feeling like you found answers on your offensive line, feeling good about your starting five plus the Jacarius Peak addition when he comes back? Because I'm sure you feel like once he gets healthy, he's good to go. He'll hit the ground running whenever that is. But do you come out of spring feeling like, did you answer the question of we feel better about our offensive line? We've got a really good idea of what these starting five are like. Because, Cole, that was the thing that undid their season. I mean, it wasn't just one thing per se, but when you have one of the worst offensive lines in college football, you don't stand much of a chance. You've got Lenora Sellers back. You've got Nick Harbor on the offensive side. You're not going to be able to do anything with them, especially Lenora Sellers, if your offensive line does not take a massive step forward. So I think that is the big question they've got to answer. Are we going to be improved, much improved on the offensive line? And Cole, if you're not, or if you're only slightly improved, how are you able to scheme around it, if at all? Right? Kendall Browse, your new offensive coordinator. We could have gone there as well. Either one of us could have. What does it look like under Kendall Browse? How much differently how much differently does the offense look? And again, I know I'm throwing a bunch of questions out there, Cole, to be answered, but does Kendall Briles make such a difference where he's able to mask the deficiencies this offense very obviously had a season ago? Because as bad as Mike Shula was, I don't think it was just him. I think there were other problems. So loads of question marks in Columbia to be answered on the offensive side. Cole, let's go to Knoxville, Tennessee. Tennessee Volunteers. Question you want answered for the Vols this spring.
Quarterback would be the right answer, just because of the Joey Aguilar thing. I'll go different, because if it was the answer I had before the Joey Aguilar stuff, how quickly is Jim Knowles' defense implemented? Because the thing about this team is, remember, Tim Banks led the unit to a top 15 defensive metric, and they went to the college football playoff. Then he struggles, so they fire him. So now you bring in Jim Knowles. And the thing that we know about Jim Knowles' defense is year one, you establish the foundation. Year two, you go ham. Well, Josh Heupel is not going to be fired, but the seat is going to get warmer if you take a 7-5 season. The seat is going to get scorching if you end up taking a massive step back. But if your defense can be a schedule, I'm not saying you go to the playoff. I'm saying 9-3 with a young quarterback is not off the radar. Their schedule is manageable. They have a pathway to where you can say, that's a win, that's a win, that's toss-up, that's toss-up, that's toss-up. So 5 games could end up being from 6-6 to now 9-3, maybe 10-2. I just think that the defense is such an underlying trait for most teams. You look at what you're bringing on in terms of players and in terms of process. There's a lot to like about what Jim Knowles has. If he can catch up to speed, it's very easily able to buy into the, you know what, as long as quarterback play is fine, we'll survive this season.
I am going to go to the quarterback spot. And I like your answer, too, with Jim Knowles. He's a huge piece for them and obviously a huge part of their success this year. I'm going to go to quarterback, though. Who steps up? Who is the answer under center? Is it George McIntyre, the returner? Is it Faison Brandon, the star freshman? Or is it Ryan Staub, the Colorado transfer? I think most of us think it's going to be either McIntyre or Faison Brandon. But who is that guy? Josh Heupel's teams, Josh Heupel's offenses, they all revolve around the quarterback play. Joey Aguilar was – and really came out of nowhere, but was solid last year. Did they have a guy as good, if not better, than he was a season ago? And again, who is that? Who comes out of spring with the lead at the quarterback position? Do they name a starter? Kind of a similar situation to some others out there. Do they name a starter after spring? Do they let it go into summer? Do they let it go into fall camp? Etc. So, yeah, who's that answer under center? Cole, let's go down to Austin, Texas. Hook 'em. The Longhorns, get ready, get set to go on spring ball. What's the big question you want answered this spring down in the 40 acres?
How do all these pieces that you brought in via the portal gel immediately? Because that's kind of going to be the case that you have right now is, look, Hollywood Smothers is a damn good running back. Red League Brown was a freaking awesome running back. I think that you bring in Cam Coleman and he's a difference maker. I like what you added in on the offensive line. You brought in the Wake Forest tackle. I think he could be a really good step and stand out at left or right tackle. My question is, do they all mesh together in time? Do you feel like you're leaving spring as one cohesive roster? Because one of the things that I really love and hate about the transfer portal is you bring in 40 dudes. Okay, well, you have a roster full of Ole Miss players or Texas players or South Carolina players. And then you have a roster full of players that are joining the team. And it's like, I want to just know I have one roster filled of Texas players, one roster filled of Ole Miss players. How quickly does that all mesh and gel together to where the little details that you want to be focusing in on when you get to fall camp, the little details that are going to play a major role in setting the tone for what you're going to be as a program in 2026, that's the attention that we're seeing throughout the summer, throughout workouts, through all these other things, because all the other stuff has been finalized.
Cole, I think that's a great answer, and I actually had that written down. So to be different than you, I'm going to go – the question I want answered is, how much of a positive impact is it to have Will Muschamp back in Austin? Taking over as defensive coordinator, I think they obviously bring him in. Sark's thought is, we're going to take this defense from really, really good to elite, and I think having his voice back on the sidelines in Austin, Texas is only going to be a positive for them. Listen, whatever Will Muschamp isn't as a head coach, he is as a defensive coordinator. This guy knows defense. He knows elite defense. So how how much different, and I think it's only going to be a positive, but how much different is the mentality, the attitude? Does that take this Texas defense, at least the feeling is around there, that it takes this Texas defense to another level and another gear that maybe they weren't even able to tap into, say, last year or 2 years ago? And again, they were already really good. But again, to be different from you, because I agree, the pieces coming together on offense, that's probably the big thing in the spring. But I'll go defensive side. Will Muschamp being back on the sidelines in Austin. Who'd ever thunk it? Cole, let's stay in the Lone Star State. Let's go to College Station, Texas. The Texas A&M Aggies and Mike Elko get set for spring ball. Big question you want answered in spring practice for Gig'em.
You got a new offensive coordinator. What is he going to look like with Marcel Reed? That's the only thing I'm worried about at this point, because I believe that you're going to get the right players defensively. I think that while I'm not a big fan of all the offensive linemen that they brought in, I like Adam Cushing as an offensive line coach. I think he'll get the best version of them. From a weight room standpoint, I don't worry about Tommy Moffitt leading the charge. He will have the boys prepared mentally and physically for week one. But what matters is Holman Wiggins and your quarterback. What matters is, what are the things that we're going to see from Marcel Reed that are going to feel elevated, more mature, more cohesive, balanced, direct, to when we get to the season this time next year. We're talking about Marcel Reed being a reason why A&M won multiple playoff games, why A&M was a threat to win a national title. While we can believe that this is a program that's on the come up and here to stay for the long term, not just as an SEC viable option that will be a 9-win program, but one that we believe is going to be the face of the league, one that can make it to Atlanta, do all the other little details, carries a lot of weight. I just need to know that Holman Wiggins is going to change up some stuff that really was a massive downfall for Marcel Reed.
Cole, my big question I want to answer, who fills Casey Concepcion's shoes? I know you've got viable answers on the outside, Mario Craver being one, Isaiah Horton, who you picked up from Alabama, that being another. But, like, who is that guy? You know, who is that big-time playmaker on the outside, that difference maker, that game changer? Casey Concepcion made so many big plays for the Aggies a season ago. Do you have a guy like that? Is there another Casey Concepcion? He certainly was a one-of-one talent, but is that guy on this roster? If not, how do you replicate the production and the threat that he was a season ago for Marcel Reed? Certainly Marcel Reed taking that next step. Big question he answered as well. And finally, Cole, let's go right here in my backyard. Nashville, Tennessee, the Vanderbilt Commodores. They look to build off a 10-win season. There's no more Diego Pavia in Nashville, though. It's going to be a different look, a different vibe. Big question, Cole, that you want answered for the Doors this spring.
Jared Curse is going to be your starting quarterback. Let's just get that out of the way. I don't want to hear from anybody. No, it's not. It's going to be Jared Curtis. All right, so who's the supporting cast? Who is it? Who are the guys around him? Because Trey Richardson is now at Louisville. You no longer have Eli Stowers. You no longer have one of your key running backs. Junior Sherrill is back, but what about the rest of the room? What are you going to get from Cole Adams, the transfer from Alabama? What are you going to get from Ja'Cory Thomas? What are you going to get at the tight end position from Cole Spence? What are you going to get from some of the younger guys? I want to know that Jared Curtis, a quarterback that is probably the highest rated player to ever go through Vanderbilt, and certainly a guy that can change the culture of Vanderbilt for the long term, kind of take the pieces that Diego Pavia had in motion and build it up to new heights. He's got a good supporting cast around him to where he doesn't have to be the hero every single play. I just need to know that he's got weapons. He's got stability.
Cole, I'm just going to go straight to the end game here when it comes to my question I want to answer, and that is just Jared Curtis. What does it look like? We're Diego Pavia-less in Nashville. There's no more Diego Pavia. Is Jared Curtis, how ready is he to pick up where Diego Pavia left off? And I'm not even saying from like a win standpoint, like, hey, you got to go win 10 games this year, but being that guy under center, right? Like, how much does Vanderbilt football look? How much differently, I should say, does Vanderbilt football look post Diego Pavia? And is Jared Curtis ready to shine, take on the reins, and be that guy? Because you're right, he's going to be the starter. I think anybody who thinks he's not going to start, they just simply don't know what they're talking about. So is Jared Curtis ready to be that dude? Do we get reports coming out of spring? Hey, this guy's for real. This guy's legit. This dude is even more. I mean, I think you and I could both argue and probably agree that Jared Curtis is a more talented player than Diego Pavia. Diego Pavia had something that many college football players don't. And that was the heart of a lion and grit and determination and swag. And you just keep going down the list. Is Jared Curtis ready to be that leader, that bigger than life personality, that guy, that dude for Vandy under center that they desperately, desperately need? So with that being said, Cole, those are the questions we're most looking forward to having answered throughout spring football, guys. We love to hear from you all. And by the way, this is just the beginning of our spring football coverage. Myself and Cole Thompson will be talking all through spring, probably have some guests in the mix as well, getting reports from boots on the ground at each respective school. But Cole Thompson and I will be breaking down all things spring football as we follow the action on the gridiron over the next 2 months, I would say, two plus months or so, leading up into April when virtually every single spring game is. That is if your team's playing a spring game. But we'd love to hear from you, your thoughts on spring football, what you're excited about, position battles, questions you want answered, and everything in between. Cole, with that being said, let's keep the show moving. Before we do, though, really quickly, because we're going to get into our season will be successful if series, and I'm really excited for this. Before we do, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Underdog, because as always, we are brought to you by our friends at Underdog. Guys, fast breaks, buzzer beaters, block parties are back. Underdog's the best place to get in all the action. Playing Underdog super easy. Just pick whether your favorite players are going to go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. And if you get your picks right, you go into 5,000 times your cash. Again, March Madness, college baseball, college basketball, NBA, NHL, MLB, everything in between. They've got it. Download the app today. Use promo code SECU to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code SECU. Underdog, make picks, win money. Must be 18 and up, 19 up in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 up in Colorado for some games, 21 and up in Arizona, Massachusetts, Virginia, and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-MY-RESET or 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Like I mentioned, really excited because we are beginning a brand new series today that we'll run over the next 3.5, 4 weeks or so, because we will, of course, be doing this for every single SEC team. Our season will be successful if ... series, where we'll talk each and every single SEC football program and just answer the simple question, Cole: what will define a successful 2026 college football season? And the fun thing about this is there's a bunch of different ways you could go, a lot of different answers you could give. So without further ado, Cole, let's kick it off with the Texas Longhorns. The season will be successful if, obviously, Cole, this is a program that extremely high expectations at this point in Steve Sarkisian's tenure. You think about last year, fell short of the college football playoff, but there's a sense of optimism coming into this season, right? For all the shortcomings you had, you finished the season strong. Arch Manning looked great in the bowl game through the year and with his legs. You added new pieces and, really talented pieces in the transfer portal. There is a sense of optimism for the Texas Longhorns, no doubt. So when we talk about this and what a successful season will be, certainly the expectations are high, but as they should be for a program like this.
When I look at Texas, I view them as a team that is in it's a natty or bust mode, but they're in the tier right below it. Texas should view itself as one of the top competitors because they should not be outbid by most people for recruits. They should not be outbid for most teams by transfer portal players. They should feel confident in where they are as a program, that they're not in a place of Alabama the past. Yeah, we got a freshman waiting in the wings. Oh, look, that All-American's gone. Lo and behold, we got a guy coming on up, and he's going to do the exact same thing before being a top 20 pick. But they're pretty close. They usually have one or two names that we believe is going to be an All-American. They usually have one or two players that we're going to spend 2 or 3 months talking about for all the good reasons, and hopefully they'll meet our expectations. That's where we are right now. So I think you look at their tier ranking overall, they should be we know that we're a playoff team, and winning a playoff game isn't good enough for us.
Yeah, it kind of feels like, Cole, we're in an era of college football on that note where I don't know if anybody anymore can really be natty or bust and have that as your year in, year out expectation. But I will say that does feel like the next step for this program, because you think about what Steve Sarkisian's done, what he's led them to. They were the only college football program, Cole, coming in the last year that made the Final Four in the playoff back-to-back years. They were the only one. So they've kind of done everything except win the Natty. I mean, I think you could argue that, winning the SEC title too, but, if you're going to pick one or the other, obviously, I hate to say it, but, winning the SEC championship doesn't quite hold the same weight that it did. Cole, I want to pull up the schedule because and we're going to do this for every single team, because I think the schedule goes a long way in helping shape the conversation of what success looks like, right? Because, if you have a schedule that's conducive to a big year, or maybe it's a little bit tougher, that's going to shape the way that you look at what success is in that season. So without further ado, Cole, let's pull up the Texas schedule here. Here we go. The 2026 Longhorns schedule, if I can pick which format I want for those watching live.
There you go. Don't touch.
Don't touch. Okay, perfect. Even though we're blocked off a game, but this will do. Anyways, Cole, Texas has got, just running down it, Texas State at home to open up with things. They've got the big non-conference game against Ohio State, UTSA and non-con. Then we jump into SEC play, and it's 9 straight SEC games from there on out. And let's not forget, Cole, by the way, that it's a 9-game conference schedule for everybody. So that has to be taken into account when you set the expectations and define success in each of these respective seasons. SEC play looks like this. At Tennessee, bye week. Red River shootout gets you going early on in SEC play. Florida at home, Ole Miss at home, Mississippi State at home. So you've got, 3 straight home games following Red River. Then you're at Missouri, at LSU, Arkansas at home, and then at Texas A&M to close out the season. Cole, when you look at this schedule, I don't know that it's necessarily going to change the standard or change the expectation, but this is one, Cole, the first 2 years in the SEC, some folks have written off Texas's success because of a lighter slate, easier slate, more manageable, what have you. That will not be the case this year. This certainly has a schedule with pitfalls and traps all over it.
Nah, even if you were to say Tennessee's not going to be the elite team of 10-2. All right, they're still going to be damn good, and they still are going to get you early in the year to where 9-3 is a possibility, and you get to go play in Neyland for the first time. Best of luck with the loud noise, brother. Ole Miss, maybe they'll take a step back because you don't have Lane Kiffin. They're still not going to be a terrible team. Oh, by the way, LSU, they're getting Lane Kiffin. So if the enigma of what worked for Ole Miss in the past works down in Baton Rouge early on, and it's in Death Valley, and it's a night game, best of luck in your future endeavors. I do not envy you. So it will be challenging. But again, this is what Texas signed up for. When you joined the SEC and you knew that there was a potential chance of a 9-game conference schedule, something that Texas is very well known for doing in their time in the in the Big 12, but it was 10 teams. Still, when that was the case, you should have known this was going to be the new norm, facing off against quality teams in rigorous locations. The one caveat I will have is, while you do get the bye to prepare for Oklahoma in the Red River shootout, afterwards it is a murderer's row. I mean, against Florida, against Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Missouri, at LSU, Arkansas, at Texas A&M to close out the year. Not every game is going to be that challenging, but there are going to be a ton of them that will at least say, hey, you don't bring your A game, you're going to lose. And that could be the difference of you playing in Atlanta. That could be the difference of you going to the college football playoff. That could be the difference of you being in a national championship conversation. You got to be mentally prepared. It's one of those things to where, yes, Texas, I think, is going to be able to feel confident in the way that their schedule is built. But all it takes is one injury, one bad game, one terrible execution that leads to a heartbreaker or a nail biter, and everything goes topsy-turvy.
Cole, on that note, let's move into the part of the conversation. What will define success for the 2026 Texas Longhorns? What does that look like for them in this upcoming season? Would you like the honors here, or you want me to start with this?
I'll go first for this one. I think it's going at least to the college football playoff and making the semifinal. I think that should be the expectation year in and year out for Texas. You went out and you brought in Cam Coleman because if you could. You went out and you brought in 2 running backs for the price of 1 because you could. You went out and you brought in solid offensive linemen via the portal because you could. And you did all this because if you have a quarterback that by the season's end looked like the guy that everyone was premonitioning as the second coming of Tim Tebow. And now you get to build off of that. Arch Manning is going to be legit next season. I don't think anybody should be looking around and saying, oh, well, Arch is going to not have another year of regression. No, the version that was way too hyped up was the version that eventually appeared in the A&M game and appeared in the college football playoff. So you got to at least say, we are going to be in the college football playoff conversation. We're going to be in Atlanta. And I think that's just a non-negotiable. Like, those should be two things that you automatically sign up for. And then you need to be winning playoff games, whether that be going 2-1, whether that be going 4-0, whether that be going 3-0 because you get the first round bye. There is at least an expectation you are a Final Four team year in and year out. Now, naturally, the end goal should be you're competing for a national championship. The end goal should be that you're playing for a national title. And if you don't do that, it's a lost season. But in a 12-team playoff format where you don't know what your matchups are going to be, who you may be facing off against, who's injured or not, that is going to change my opinion just a little bit. But there's no reason why you should not be considered a top 4 team year in and year out. You should at least make the college football playoff semifinal, if not the national championship.
Yeah, like I mentioned, Cole, it's an interesting state of college football that we're in that, again, you really just can't set natty or bust as the expectation because there's so many other factors that go into if you even make it to that game, much less win it. And this is why I love this conversation, Cole, because you can go a number of different directions here. I don't disagree with anything you said. For me, what will define success for Texas this upcoming season? If Arch Manning is in New York at the Heisman Trophy ceremony, Texas had a successful 2026. Because if he's there, everything else took care of itself. He had the kind of season and he made the kind of jump that, number one, all Texas fans wanted to see. That, number two, many of us expected he may make, especially after his performance at the end of 2025 and going into the bowl game. And number three, he had the performance worthy of making the college football playoff at minimum with this schedule and winning a few games in it as well. And again, I know the playoff doesn't go into and doesn't factor in the Heisman Trophy, but you get what I'm saying. He's playing at such a level where Texas can make that deep run in the postseason, in the playoffs. So a lot of different directions you can go here. It's why I love this conversation. But Arch Manning, if you tell me he's in New York, Cole, I would guarantee you that Texas had a successful season. I don't know if that means they win the national championship. I don't know if that means they went to the quarterfinal or the semifinal or whatever it is. But I will think they are a team, the caliber that they are proud of and they are happy with, and they would deem that it is a successful year in Austin, national championship or not. I think that will help define a successful campaign for them because, again, I think the defense is going to be as salty as ever. That would tell me the pieces came together offensively and Arch Manning flourished essentially all season long. So they're going to win a lot of games if he does that. So,
they will.
Yeah, we'll see. Guys, we'd love to hear from you, your thoughts. What will spell a successful season for the Texas Longhorns in this upcoming 2026 campaign? Would love to get your thoughts. Would love to hear from you. Cole, let's keep it moving. Last one for today. Season will be successful if, let's do the Arkansas Razorbacks. We're going to mix it up when we do these two, coupling these teams together. The Arkansas Razorbacks, year one of Ryan Silverfield. This will be an interesting conversation, Cole, because, again, it's a brand new era, and you feel like you're starting from the bottom. Really, truly. I mean, you went 2-10 last year, 0-8 in conference play. Obviously, the Sam Pittman era completely falls apart. There was some grumbling and mumbling and moaning when Ryan Silverfield got the job. Obviously, Arkansas fans are loyal to a fault, and they're always going to show up and support the Hogs. But it's an interesting campaign upcoming, Cole, no doubt. This program's in a very, very interesting place, to say the very least.
I mean, I'm just asking for fans to have realistic expectations. Like, I mean, I understand that there are things that you just expect to happen. And naturally, you should never feel like that you're just being beaten like a drum on a Saturday. And let's be real. Last season, that was the case. 2-0 start, lose 10 straight. In probably 80% of those games, you weren't in it from the get-go. Like, you don't want to feel that. But you can't just say, well, we bring in Ryan Silverfield and he brings in a ton of new players and he has an identity. Great. 8 wins on the horizon. No. Just have realistic goals for year one. because your schedule is always going to be brutal. I don't know what the hell Arkansas or Hunter Yurachek did to Greg Sankey to warrant a beatdown of a schedule year in and year out. But once again, that's what you have on the horizon. It is going to be a long first season. It's going to be a teachable first season. And there could be a lot of good mixed in there. But if you're expecting anything other than, hey, maybe we'll make a bowl game and maybe things will be good, we'll be good. Like that's really what you're looking for.
Looking for a reason for hope, Cole. You can put
Optimism,
it as simple and any kind of optimism. You can think of it as simple as that. On that note, Cole, you mentioned the schedule, and like we've talked before, the schedule goes such a long way in shaping what a successful season will look like. So without further ado, this is Arkansas's schedule in the upcoming 2026 campaign. Cole, they will open up with North Alabama in non-conference play. How about this week 2 matchup at Utah? Not the easiest non-conference showdown. You then get into SEC play. You dip your toe in. I say you dip your toe in. You got the Georgia Bulldogs coming to Fayetteville for your SEC home opener. Then you jump back out of conference play. You've got Tulsa coming to your place. That's not an easy non-conference game. And then you finish it out, obviously, with SEC play only. You're at Texas A&M, Tennessee at home, at Vandy. You get the bye week. Then you've got Missouri at home, at Auburn, South Carolina, at Texas, and then you've got the LSU Tigers.
That's a new one.
That, Cole? The final weekend of the season coming to Fayetteville, the battle for the Golden Boot. Good to see that game, by the way, back on the final weekend of the season. Cole, this is a very difficult schedule. I mean, again, you got LSU, you got at Texas, you got to go to Auburn, at Texas A&M, Georgia comes to your place. This is a schedule where if they get to 6-6, certainly if they do any better, they're going to be one of the biggest stories in the SEC, I would imagine, right? I mean, this is going to be a team that vastly overachieved. Ryan Silverfield, I don't know that he'd win like coach of the year necessarily in the SEC, but we're going to be talking about how great of a job he did and how great of a hire that was by them.
No, even the toss-up games you look at aren't toss-up. Like they're challenging. Utah, okay, that's a challenging game. Texas A&M, you're at Texas A&M. That's a challenging game. At Tennessee, challenging game. Vanderbilt, challenging game. Missouri, challenging game. Auburn, challenging game. South Carolina, challenging game. So it's like even the ones that you look at and say, I may feel confident in X, Y, and Z go my way, I still need a little bit of luck to get past it. Yeah, if you go 6-6 with this schedule, number one, it proves you got the hire right. I think if Ryan Silverfield can go 6-6, 500 year one, he's the right guy to lead the program moving forward. And he's got a lot of things that he's going to have to build upon, but a lot of things that you can take away as a net positive. So it's really, again, you are looking in the diamond in the rough for the positive traction of this team and what is going to work for the foreseeable future. That's what I want to feel like I'm taking away from by the time I get to November of next season. I don't care about what the record is. Don't care about what it is when it comes to who did we beat, how many ranked wins do we have, what is our overall outlook. I want to know that I'm not paying a buyout for a coach because if he was in over his head in 2 years. That's what I want to know.
Again, Ryan Silverfield, welcome to the SEC with this upcoming slate he's got this season. Cole, on that note, what's going to define a successful season for the 2026 Arkansas Razorbacks and year one of the Ryan Silverfield era in Fayetteville? Cole, would you like the honors here? Would you like me to start?
You can go first on this one.
Okay, gotcha. What I think is going to define a successful season for Arkansas, I think the very obvious low-hanging fruit is if they can make a bowl game. So I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction. And you saw this take place at the end of the Sam Pittman era. Cole, you can get away with a lot of things, especially when you're a guy like Pittman who was beloved and but you can, when you start to lose your fan base, Cole, is when you start getting blown out at home. It's really tough for people to stomach that. And I know Ryan Silverfield's a year one coach, and I'm not saying that he's going anywhere, but we want to see something different from Arkansas, right? Like we want to see change of some sort. Cole, I think if they're just competitive in their home games, that's a successful season, in my opinion. I'm setting the bar pretty low, but I mean, the bar is low right now. Hell, the bar is in hell for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Just be competitive at home. And you're probably going to trip into a couple wins if you do that, Cole. Like if you keep yourself within an arm's reach. But I mean, again, you look at some of the teams they play, you open it up with Georgia on your home field. You got Tennessee on your home field. You've got Missouri on your home field, which is a big deal because it's a rivalry game. LSU comes to your place, South Carolina. It's a pretty difficult home slate. So if Arkansas is just able to keep these games competitive, I kind of equate them to when Jeff Lebby first got to Mississippi State. If you can be spread bandits, like cover the spread, just cover the damn spread, because at least that's something to hang your hat on. I know how sad that sounds, but especially in year one, you can't have teams coming in favored by 14.5 and they win by 24. Like it just can't happen, bro. You need to keep these games close, keep these games competitive. That's how you give your fans a little bit of a sense of hope, at least in year one. Like, all right, we're getting closer. It's still not great. We're still not where we want to be, but we are making strides and we are getting closer. I think that's the big thing I'm looking for from the Arkansas Razorbacks is, again, just be competitive at home, man. Be competitive at home. That was where you started to see the Sam Pittman era go awry when they started getting their doors blown off on their home field. You just can't do that very often and live to tell the tale. Fans, it does not sit well with them. Be competitive at home in year one. I think that's a successful 2026 season and a successful year one for Ryan Silverfield.
A successful season for me is doubling the win total. You went 2-10 last season, double the win total. Because here's the reason why. You went 2-10, you fired your coach, then you said, bye, Petrino. Welcome back to life in the fast lane. We're going to go ride this thing off into the sunset, and we're going to name you interim coach. Now, here's the thing that I think a lot of people forgot about. There were some very, very high-profile people that said, just name him the head coach. Just give him a full year. Let him take over the program. Let him have a full control of the roster. Let him build this thing in his image, and he will get the ship right. Because the last time we hired Bobby Petrino, we were viewed as a top 10 team in the country. You hire Ryan Silverfield. You have got to double your win total. Because Bobby Petrino got 0 wins. Sam Pittman got 2 wins. You got to have at least a little bit more than that. Can you beat more than just Tulsa and North Alabama? Can you go on the road to Rice-Eccles Stadium and say, hey, this is the Big 12. We're supposed to be, we make fun of the Big 12. We say that we're a better conference top to bottom than the Big 12, that even the best of their teams would lose to the bottom dwellers of our conference. Okay, prove that. Can you pull off a win against, say, Tennessee, like you did a few years ago? Can you go travel to First Bank Stadium and beat up on Vanderbilt with a freshman quarterback? Can you maybe take on a unknown Missouri team in your backyard? Can you go face off against South Carolina? We don't know what their coaching status is going to be at that point. Can maybe you win that one? Can you go down to the Plains of Auburn and have a really solid overall outing? 2 of those wins, 2 wins in any of those games, that's 4-8. 4-8 is not a good season. 4-8 is not a season that you can be proud of. You're not going to a bowl game. But it's 2 more wins than the current coach that you had that was in the building last season. And it's 4 more wins than the coach that people said he's the right guy to lead the team. That's all it is. So a winning formula, in my opinion.
There you have it. Guys, love to hear your thoughts. What spells a successful season? How would you define it for the Arkansas Razorbacks in this upcoming 2026 campaign? Guys, it's going to do all for us today. The season will be successful if series will continue throughout the next couple of weeks. Like I mentioned, Texas and Arkansas are first 2. We're going to hit on every single SEC team. Cole, I'm excited to do it with you really quickly. I see you all fighting in the comments, of course. Let's see. I do want to take a comment or two and just at least shout out the people that tuned in. Our guy Randy Etheridge was all over the comments. Our guy Sandman, who, by the way, essentially tells the chat he needs Achilles surgery, brother. I wish you well on that. That is, how does the
how did you do it?
I was gonna say, how does the common person rupture their Achilles? I guess maybe you're playing like pickup basketball or backyard football or something like that. I mean, I hope it wasn't just like walking.
I had a buddy to do that, playing softball. Round of third, popped Achilles.
I'd have to imagine that pain's pretty brutal.
I don't want to know.
I
honestly don't want to know.
I don't want to know either. Let's see. He called you common. I mean, listen, our guy Sandman, he's slightly He's a common man. I think he wouldn't mind me calling him a common man.
Sam, man, are you a superstar athlete that constantly is playing at a professional level? No? Okay, you're common. There we go.
Yeah, listen, that's a compliment. There's nothing better than being with the common man. Our guy Napoleon and Hottie Toddy, Pascagoula, Mississippi. Appreciate you, my friend. Always a pleasure to have you tuned in. Our guy Sooner Cowboy said he used to live in Biloxi. How about that? State of Mississippi. John Bro was in here cheering on the Tigers. Says choo choo the lane train. Says Hugh Longstreet will push Sam Levitt. That'll be a fun quarterback battle.
It's going to be a very fun quarterback battle.
Yeah, one of the position battles to watch for. He's picking 9-3 year one under Lane Kiffin because of the tough schedule, which I think is a very fair prediction. Their schedule is very difficult. It is. David Pitt says that Rasul Faison was arguably the biggest running back letdown of all time. Anyone is an upgrade. Carolina Jackpot tuning in. How was Faison supposed to run? What was he supposed to block for himself? That is
to be fair. Yeah,
that is a good point. Mentions Jay Knott was a bigger bust last year for Oklahoma.
Far and away it was a bigger bust.
Yeah. Same question though. How is he supposed to block for himself? But yeah, the Jay Knott thing should be like studied. Should be studied how that happened. All right. That being said, Cole, let's go ahead and wrap it up. I got to get out of here. I got a flight to catch. You got things to do as well. I appreciate you guys rolling with the punches, by the way. Obviously, Thursday show, not a norm for us, but you guys are there rocking and rolling. Again, we appreciate each and every single one of you as always. As always, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Check us out where we get your podcasts all across your favorite social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. Check out Chewing Clock every Monday, Wednesday, 2 o'clock Central. We're talking SEC football 24/7, 365. You already know the drill. For Cole the Bear Thompson, and Cole, I appreciate you as always for taking the time. For Cole the Bear Thompson, I'm Chris Phillips. We're signing off. Again, appreciate you all tuning in. Have a great weekend. We'll see you in the month of March. All right, I'll get out of here. Appreciate y'all. Have a good weekend. We'll talk Monday. Peace.